Well, hello everyone, and welcome back. Happy Thursday morning to you. Hey, I just have to say again how much I appreciate everyone watching my videos on the Shemitah, and wow, the literally hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of comments that have been made. I want to encourage everyone, as kindly and as respectfully as I know how, that has posted defending Mr. Jonathan Cahn and his predictions. I want to appeal to you to please, instead of reading this sensationalistic, fear-mongering type of material, instead of trying to see a sign behind every bush and under every rock, would you please just go back to the Bible? Go back to the Bible and read what it has to say about when the last days were. Jesus appeared in the last days, Hebrews chapter 1, verse 1. Go back and read what the Bible writers have to say when they say that all of the prophets who have ever written spoke of the first century and the events that were taking place then. Please, go back to the Bible and read how the New Testament writers said over and over again things like, and now, in a very little while, and the Greek of the text is literally, in how very, very little while, the one who is coming will come, and he will not tarry. And read James 5 and verse 8. Be patient, therefore, brethren, until the coming of the Lord. Behold, the coming of the Lord has drawn near. That was written 2,000 years ago. And when people say, oh, well, I know that the New Testament says that the end was near then, but after all, God doesn't see time like man does. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please consider this. If God doesn't see time as man does, then how can Jonathan Cahn appeal over and over and over again to the time element of the Shemitah? How can he say this is God's appointed time? How can he speak of the exact and precise, the exact timing of the Shemitahs? If God doesn't see time like man does, then how can Mr. Cahn appeal to the Jewish festivals, to the Shemitah, to the Sabbaths at all? You see, this is a self-contradiction. I want you to consider with me Luke 21, verse 8. Jesus told his apostles to whom he was speaking at that time 2,000 years ago. And he said, many will come in my name saying, I am he, and they will be saying, the end has drawn near. Do not believe them. Now please pay very careful attention. Those same apostles that were told that men will come saying the end is drawn near prematurely, don't believe them. But he told those very apostles about the signs of the end. When you see these things come to pass, then know it is nigh, even at the door. Those same apostles who were warned against making or believing premature declarations of the end are the very writers of the New Testament who then began to declare later in that generation, in a very, very little while, the one who is coming will come and he will not tarry. They are the same apostles who began to declare later in that generation, when they began to see the fulfillment of the Great Commission, the Great Tribulation, etc., they are the ones who declared the end of all things has drawn near. 1 Peter 4, verse 7. Would you listen to me very, very carefully? If the apostles were wrong to say the end has drawn near, the very words that Jesus used to warn about making or believing premature declarations of the end, those very same apostles who heard that warning not to believe or to make premature declarations, in that very generation turned around and said the end has drawn near. Now we've got one of two choices here. Number one, they saw the signs of the end and truthfully declared that the end was near, meaning that the end had to come in their generation. Or number two, those very apostles who heard Jesus say, men are going to say the end has drawn near prematurely, don't believe them, and don't make those premature declarations, but they made premature declarations, and thus they became false prophets. Now that's our choice. If the New Testament writers were inspired by the Holy Spirit, and they were, then when they said 2,000 years ago that the end had drawn near 2,000 years ago, then guess what? Then Mr. Jonathan Cahn, John Hagee, Grant Jeffrey, Jack Van Impe, John Hagee, the whole lot of them are too late. They're too late. Only the apostles could be right in their declarations of the nearness of the end. If the apostles were mistaken, or if they were wrong, if they were misguided, then they are the very false prophets that Jesus warned them about. But they were not wrong. The end was near. And let me say again, that means that Mr. Jonathan Cahn and all of his partners, if you please, are wrong. Would you go to my website, please? Eschatology.org, BibleProphecy.com. Read the material that is on there as I explain all of this and how God can tell time. I wrote a book on it entitled, Can God Tell Time? It's on my website, Eschatology.org, BibleProphecy.com. Please, get a copy. Read about this, how easy it is to expose the error of men who are ignoring and distorting and perverting what Jesus and his inspired apostles had to say about the time of the end 2,000 years ago. Thanks so much for joining me for this morning's morning musings. I pray and I hope and I ask you'll give very careful thought to what I've shared with you today, and you'll look into it even more. Well, Lord willing, we'll see you next Monday. You have a great weekend.